After a 3-year wait from the end of the previous season, the final season of Stranger Things, the fifth one, is now streaming partly on Netflix. The first volume of episodes just dropped a few days ago. I actually watched it a few days ago, but I figured I would give people a little more time to catch up to it because I wanted to talk about it with some spoilers, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. And so without further ado, let's get into it. This takes place a year after the events of the fourth season's finale, which was a massive cliffhanger as every door from the Upside Down had finally opened and Vecna could be released into our world. And now the characters who we have followed this entire time, the kids are now much older, they are having to figure out battle plans to take out Vecna once and for all. Although Vecna has some interesting plans up his sleeve this time around, and other kids might be involved, and they have to figure out what's going on there too. Now, I was excited to see this because Stranger Things as a whole, ever since it started back in 2016, has been this massive phenomenon. I've loved what they've done with the characters, with the world that's been established in Hawkins, and just seeing how a lot of these storylines have developed has been really fun. I was a huge fan of the first season when that dropped. It was a massive surprise that no one saw coming. And then subsequently, the sequel seasons 2, 3, and 4 have also been extremely enjoyable. And while they're not always all perfect, there is something really endearing about them that makes you want to come back. Volume 1 of this is essentially the big setup to the finale. And what you're seeing over here is, well, first of all, re-establishing the world of Hawkins and everything that's going on over there with a more increased military presence now, as they seem to be trying to contain what's coming through the Upside Down and try and trap Vecna at the same time as well, for reasons that we don't fully know about so far. Something seems to be going on over there, and whatever it is a little interesting because they're also desperately trying to find Eleven in the process. And Eleven is currently hiding thanks to Hopper and Joyce making sure that she remains hidden and is not seen anywhere and not picked up by any traffic cameras. And so it's a very intense season in that sense because all of these kids, the ones that we've gotten to know, are now on a list, and any moves that they make against the established authorities will work against them. And the atmosphere and the way that this is developed in the season, I think, is really great. It feels like desperate times, and how each character before felt very safe and felt like, okay, they're to the side, nothing much is going to happen to them. Now they're also on the chopping block. And there are several instances of that where, characters are in the middle of something and you don't know how they're going to get out of those situations. But they're all going through their own things. And I think that what the show does when it comes to looking into their own personal issues at the time, I think once again, it does nail that quite nicely. When we start off the season, for instance, we focus in on Will, Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and how they're trying to move on after what happened with Eddie in the previous season, especially Dustin, as he is still very much not over the fact that he died and is even wearing the Hellfire Club t-shirt to school, which is something that is not being met well by the jocks because of what happened with Christy. But he is fully, honoring the fact that Eddie didn't do that. Like, he's not a murderer, and that his memory should be honored in a better way. And you get something really profound over there, and also you can understand that there is a pain, which is why he's okay with taking certain things. Like, he'll fight back, he'll get beaten, but he is very much in that zone where he's just really angry and he's just trying to make something, happen so that the world can improve, Hawkins can improve, and Eddie's memory can be honored. And Gaten Matarazzo, I think he does a really great job over there. And eventually, once, he gets more involved again with everything going down with, trying to find Vecna in the Upside Down and to be able to get through whatever roadblocks there are along the way, eventually his camaraderie once again with Steve and with the other characters, it once again develops quite nicely. And Steve, Joe Keery, once again, a really great work from him. I mean, he's one of those characters who's really come such a long way from the first season. I still recall when season 1 was there and he was the guy you for the most part, you just really didn't care about. And then in subsequent seasons, he's just gotten better and better and better. And now he's one of my favorite characters in the show. When it comes to the core kids, otherwise, Will, Noah Schnapp, he gets a lot in this season, because he is intrinsically tied to everything in the Upside Down still. It feels like that never really went away. But as this season also explores, he's got a very direct link to Vecna. And how they do that is incredibly fascinating, because he's being able to see things and experience things in ways that are extremely bizarre. And oftentimes he'll be looking at images that he's not particularly looking at, but he's in someone else's mind looking through someone else because of this link that's been established. And I like some of the ideas that they played around with over there too, as everyone else around him is trying to understand how that could potentially help, and not trying to keep too many secrets between one another this time, because this is not the time to do that. And I also like what they're doing with Eleven and Hopper. Once again, Millie Bobby Brown was great, and so is David Harbour. Once again, their camaraderie, their father-daughter relationship at this point is just really, really heartwarming. And again, just seeing them, take on a lot of things once they enter certain situations in the Upside Down, because one mission goes awry during a burn of the entrance, which the military is over. And once Eleven and Hopper are there, they have to take on the military, and they have to find out, what else is happening when it comes to disappearances. In particular, one of the disappearances ends up being Holly Wheeler, who is Mike and Nancy's little sister. And this was a really bizarre one, because they can't seem to figure out why she would be taken. Nell Fisher, who plays her, and you might remember her from Evil Dead Rise, she is really, really good over here. And a lot of the season revolves around her, as she is being visited by someone who she calls Mr. Whatsit. And what Mr. Whatsit is basically saying, hey, there are monsters coming, everything's really dangerous, you come with me, I'll help you out. And every now and then she'll mention that, but it's someone that no one else can see. And how that eventually plays out, as she is taken, but she's taken to a place where she believes she's safer and things seem to be great, the things start to seem a little weird over there too. And Mr. Whatsit, well, he ends up being a little bit more, but I'll get to that in a second. Those are some of the story ideas that I like that they were playing around with so far. I'll talk, like I said, a little bit more about a couple of things in a second, but one thing I want to also mention in general with the season is, once again, it is a spectacular production. It's an extremely expensive show, and you can see a lot of that money on the screen, especially the visual effects. Those are significantly dialed up in this season, and there are certain moments with creatures and with the violence and action that is taking place that really do look pretty incredible. Especially when you're in the Upside Down now, that world seems so much more tangible than it did before. And there's a couple of really gruesome moments that play out as well, that they really did a great job with. Some of those, moments where things are just being ripped apart or people are being killed, especially when monsters start emerging from the Upside Down. Like the Demogorgon makes a massive comeback in this season, and having the Demogorgon running around, trying to get all the kids that will be taken into the Upside Down, it leads to some tense moments over there. And I mentioned earlier, like, no character really is safe, even if it's on the side. Having Karen Wheeler, Mike and Nancy's and Holly's mom, take on a Demogorgon and defend her daughter, even though she's not exactly, equipped to do this, but she's trying to do the best to protect her daughter. It leads to this really brutal cold open in the second episode, where she manages to hurt the Demogorgon significantly, but still gets beaten in the process and almost killed. And eventually she's taken into the hospital. She just about makes it. Even her husband takes a massive hit to that. And he's been, for the most part of, in this series, he's just been sitting around like not caring at what's going on in the world, but I feel like that's about to change really, really soon. On a technical level, Stranger Things has always been great. It is, like I already mentioned, it's a really great looking season, and the action is great. The sound design, it's really loud and very crisply done. The score, once again, is really great. Lots of really fun needle drops in here, and there's a lot of great moments which will harken back to the 80s, that once again it captures that era in a really, really cool way, as things are becoming much more advanced as the years are going by. Even in these 4 years between 83 to 87, so much has changed when it comes to the world of Hawkins, and seeing some of that was really, really cool. Now, getting into the couple of big surprises, like I mentioned, but the things that I really want to talk about now is the things that I'll get into. So, Mr. Whatsit. It's Vecna. Except in disguise as a man with a bowler hat and stuff like that. And Jamie Campbell Bower is once again terrific in this role. There is such an eerie menace to him where he can convey a lot without having to really go over the top, and he does that once again really well over here. He did a great job with that in season 4, and eventually when he does show up as Vecna as well, it's incredibly terrifying, and there is this aspect to him where it's like you can't really take this guy on and expect to live to tell the tale very easily. Like, this is a very serious threat that we're facing, and I think the way that that's shown, especially at one point with him just basically dismantling the military with his by himself, is very effective in that sense. But the thing that's really interesting about Vecna's storyline is that you enter a part of his world where things seem to be a bit fragile. And in that Mr. What's It reality, especially the one where Holly is, she is told not to go into the woods. And the woods there might be some danger over there, to stay away from that. When she eventually gets a letter from Mr. What's It saying, hey, maybe you might want to help me out over here, she goes into the woods and she sees a cave. And what she sees over there, it seems to be something that is very scary, and she tries to run from it. But it turns out that the thing that's after her, the person who's after her, is Max. So Sadie Sink, if you remember the previous season, she nearly died while being targeted by Vecna. And it came so close. She's still in a coma in our world. But part of her is still stuck there. And as you find out later on, she tried to get out. She tried to make it through. And even though a window did open for a while, it closed because there was something that, Vecna was kind of avoiding. But she was safe where she was because Vecna did not want to enter there. For some reason, that seemed to scare him. We don't really know why yet. We will soon see eventually. But it's nice to see Max again. I think that's also, again, one of those characters who has just really grown on me ever since she showed up in season 2. And she's one of my favorites of the entire series now. And Sadie Sink is once again really, really great. I can't wait to see what else they're going to do with her in the later part of the season. As for the military stuff that's going on over there, Linda Hamilton as Dr. K, who is running things, was interesting. You don't know much about her so far. She's there, and I guess something's going on. She wants 11, of course. She wants to use her for something, but I don't think we still really have a lot of clarity into what the long-term goal is here, especially with the kids and with everything. Like, I guess to trap Vecna in some way, or maybe to use Vecna as like a weapon against other things, which I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. Towards the end of Volume 1, I found myself really engaging with a lot of it, especially the final episode where things really turn up a notch and you get this massive finale in the last 25-30 minutes or so where everything just goes to hell as, you're trying to get the kids out of the way, the kids who have been taken from homes and put in a school bus and brought over to the military encampment to be like, hey, these kids are in danger. Vecna is coming for them, so we need to get them out of here. And they're being held by one of the kids who they're able to save before Vecna gets there, whose name is Derek, who starts off as this little shithead who you just don't give a damn about. But again, credit to the show where it's due, he gets that redemption arc real quick, and he's one of those characters who now I also really like. He's just really funny. I mean, he found his own light in the whole process, and having all of that, the big action take place as Demogorgons are coming out of the Upside Down and attacking soldiers and ripping them apart, as Mike and Joyce and everyone are trying to evade them as best as possible, and eventually Vecna showing up and they're like, all right, I'm gonna get the job done over here and kill everybody. I like that his motivation essentially comes down to, I came after kids because those specific ones that I wanted, I mean, of course, there's feeding off of powers and all that, but at the same time, they were easy to break and they were easy to get through to. Like you, William, I was able to get through you to you very easily, and to be able to make you connect with you and sync up with you in a certain way. And Will is someone who's been scared so much this entire season. I forgot to mention there's a lot of moments with him and Robin where Robin is really trying to help him come out of his shell, in more ways than one. But there is an aspect to that about embracing himself and to really get past certain fears that he has, and to have that play into the fact that he is connected to Vecna and he could potentially use what Vecna has to do some good, leading to a moment where, as multiple characters are about to die, he manages to stop the Demogorgons with powers very much like Eleven's, and rip them apart as from the inside, basically, which is a really cool moment. And I'm guessing now Eleven and Will are going to take on what Vecna is up to, but not without a little surprise. So, do you remember in season 2 years ago, there was that one episode where Eleven went to Chicago and there were these other kids who also had powers? Well, after all these years, because we're now approaching the series finale, someone finally thought, hey, you know what? We should probably acknowledge that again. So, throughout the entire Volume 1 section, Eleven keeps getting blocked by something or the other. These like siren powers that seem to be coming out like sonic charges. It's kind of like those things in the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk movie, where he's kind of like pulled down by those sonic things. But you're kind of trying to wonder, where is that coming from? How is something being able to block her powers? And eventually that leads to infiltrating that military base where Dr. K is, and the belief that Vecna might be in there. However, to Eleven and Hopper's surprise, they find Kali in there. She's hooked up to this machine, and she's the one who's been doing everything. So after the end of season 2, when she went off on her own path, I guess this is where she's now ended up. You don't know where the others are because she's not alone at that point of time in that season. What happened to the others, we'll find out soon, I guess. But they are acknowledging now that that was a subsection of the story. How is that going to play out? I don't know, because I think this is a very shared opinion that this is the episode that where you really get to spend time with these characters was probably the least good episode of Stranger Things in its entire run. So I'm very curious to see if they find a way to retroactively make it so that it's like, okay, now it all fits. Now you're getting everything. So overall, I think Volume 1 sets up some fascinating things. It does feel a little choppy at times. There are some things that, feel a little underdeveloped, a little undercooked, because it's a lot that's happening. There are certain character relationships that you don't get a lot of time with. Like Jonathan is planning something very big with Nancy, but, we don't have a lot of time with that yet. There's stuff going on with Dustin, like I mentioned, as he's dealing with Eddie's loss and the stuff at school. We still have to get a little bit more with that, and so much more to find out about with Will and with Kali and with Holly and with Max. Like, how is she gonna get out of this finally? And I'm excited to see where it'll go. Since it's not done yet, I will probably wait to give it a grade, however, but as of right now, I would say I'm pretty fascinated by everything that I'm seeing, and I look forward to the conclusion. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and hope you guys enjoy the show.